YouTube, brothers and sisters. My name is Tyler. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Jessie. We have two daughters together. Two beautiful girls together, actually. And, yeah, this video is made for educational purposes. It's geared towards Jehovah's Witnesses and really anybody who wishes to learn or debate the Bible. But this is part 3 to a video titled A Jehovah's Witness Discovers New Light, number 11. And as was stated in the previous part 2, this video is, this part is a slight shift from what we normally talk about. What we normally talk about is the sort of discrepancies that the Watchtower has compared to God's Word. And I wanted to show you guys a Bible passage that I read that I found absolutely breathtaking. And the reason why is because I did a little bit of research on this, and my goodness, there's a lot to unpack here. But let's read it first. It's from Matthew chapter 17, starting in verse 1. It says, 6 days later, Jesus took Peter and James and his brother John along and led them up into a lofty mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them. His face shined as the sun, and his outer garments became brilliant as the light. And look, there appeared to them Moses and Elijah conversing with him. Now, this part, verse 3, is very important. Then Peter said to Jesus, Lord, it is fine for us to be here. If you wish, I will erect 3 tents here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. While he was still speaking, look, a bright cloud overshadowed them. And look, a voice out of the cloud said, This is my son, the beloved, whom I have approved. Listen to him. So, Jesus took Peter and James up a lofty mountain, and it was just them 3. And then Moses and Elijah appeared to Jesus and spoke to him. And, Peter wanted to make tents for Moses, Elijah, and Jesus. But what happened? A bright cloud overshadowed them, and a voice came out of the cloud saying, This is my son, the beloved, whom I have approved. Listen to him. Now, do I believe that this verse happened the way it says it did? In a way. And why do I feel this way? Well, in verse 3 it says, There appeared to them Moses and Elijah. There is a big problem with this. Moses died. Okay? Moses died. And even further, if you go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 34, verse 1, it says, Then Moses went up from the desert plains of Moab to Mount Nebo, to the top of Pisgah, which faces Jericho. And Jehovah showed him all the land. Okay? All right? And then in verse 4, it says, Then Jehovah said to him, he's speaking to Moses, This is the land about which I have sworn to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, To your offspring I will give it. I have let you see it with your own eyes. But pay attention to this. He said, But you will not cross over there. So Moses was not permitted to enter the promised land. That's what all these pieces of land are. They're the promised land that Jehovah had vowed to give to the descendants of Abraham. All right? All right. And then after that, in verse 5, after that, Moses, the servant of Jehovah, died there in the land of Moab, just as Jehovah had said. And he buried him. Jehovah buried Moses in the valley in the land of Moab, opposite of Beth Peor. And nobody knows where his grave is down to this day. All right. So let's go back to that verse. So in verse 3, there appeared to them Moses and Elijah. It would be impossible for Moses to be there because Jehovah said that Moses would not cross into the promised land. Moses would never step foot in the promised land. If that was indeed Moses who appeared before Peter and James, speaking to Jesus along with Elijah, that would make Jehovah a liar. Well, Moses was not supposed to be there, ever. So, do I believe it was Elijah? Yeah, I do believe Elijah appeared, and I'll tell you why later. But if Moses wasn't the one who appeared with Elijah, then who was it? Well, what I believe, this is totally debatable. The one who I believed appeared to Jesus along with Elijah was Enoch. It was. And I will try my best to prove it. Okay? I will try my best to prove it. First of all, let's see what happened to Enoch, okay? Let's see what the Watchtower says about him, okay? I'm going to read some of this. Okay. It says Enoch had lived a long time. This is under he had pleased God well. Enoch had lived a long time. It might be hard for us to imagine, but that man's life stretched back for some 365 years, more than 4 very long lifespans by today's standards. But he was not truly old. Not in the world of his time. Back then, over 50 centuries ago, people lived far longer than than they do today. Adam, the first man, had been living for over 600 years when Enoch was born. Adam lived on for another 3 centuries. Some of Adam's descendants lived even longer than that. So at 365, Enoch may have still looked fairly vibrant, like a man who had much of his life yet ahead of him. In fact, though, he did not. Okay? Enoch was likely in grave danger. Picture him on the run, unable to put out of his mind the reaction of people whom he had recently spoken a message of God, or from God. Their faces were twisted with rage. Those people hated him. They despised his message, and they loathed the God who had sent him. They could not strike out at Enoch's God, Jehovah, but they could certainly strike out at this man. Perhaps Enoch wondered if he would ever see his family again. Did he think of his wife and daughters, or of his son Methuselah, or of his grandson Lamech? Well, Lamech's kind of important. We'll go over that too. But what was this the end? I'm sorry. Yeah, was this the end? All right, let's see. I'm going to keep going down here. All right. Transferred so as not to see death. How did the end come for Enoch? In a way, his death is even more mysterious and intriguing than his life. The Genesis account simply says, Enoch kept walking with the true God. Then he was no more, for God took him. In what way did God take Enoch? The Apostle Paul later explained, by faith Enoch was transferred so as not to see death. And he was nowhere to be found because God had transferred him. For before he was transferred, he received the witness that he had pleased God well. What did Paul mean by the phrase transferred as not to see death? Some Bible translations say that God took Enoch to heaven, but that cannot be. The Bible shows that Jesus Christ was the first one ever to be resurrected to heaven. First of all, let's click on this real quick. Yeah. John 3:13. Moreover, no man has ascended into heaven, but the one who descended from heaven, the Son of Man. First of all, this verse right here does not say that Jesus was resurrected to heaven at all, because Jesus wasn't resurrected to heaven. He was resurrected to earth in his own flesh body, and he appeared to his disciples multiple times as himself. Jesus ascended into heaven because he had the authority to do so. He could ascend and descend from heaven at his own authority. So Jesus wasn't this sentence right here. The Bible shows that Jesus was the first one to ever resurrected to heaven. That's not true. That is a very misleading statement. Anyways, because yes, Jesus was not resurrected to heaven. I've never even, the Bible doesn't say that. It says he ascended. You're gonna get ascended by his own authority. Anyways, continuing. In what sense, then, was Enoch transferred so that he did not see death? Jehovah likely transferred Enoch gently from life to death, sparing him any pangs of death. But first, Enoch received the witness that he had pleased God well. How? Just before his death, Enoch may have received a vision, perhaps one showing him the earth as a paradise. With that vivid sign of Jehovah's approval, Enoch fell asleep in death. Writing about Enoch and other faithful men and women, the Apostle Paul stated, "In faith all of these died." Thereafter, his enemies may have searched for the body, but it was nowhere to be found. Perhaps because Jehovah disposed of it, preventing them from desecrating it or using it to promote false religion. All right. All right. Okay, down here. As peace stole over him, Enoch closed his eyes and drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep. And, hold on. And there he remains to this day, asleep in death, carefully preserved in the limitless memory of Jehovah God. As Jesus later promised, the day will come when all those who are in God's memory will hear hear Christ's voice and come out of the grave, opening their eyes to a beautiful, peaceful new world. Okay. So basically, okay. Okay. So basically, what it's saying here is that Enoch walked with the true God, which is true. And Enoch, it says here, Enoch was transferred. We're going to go to Genesis 5, verse 24. I'm going to click on that. Okay. We're going to start in verse 21. Enoch lived for 65 years and then became father to Methuselah. After becoming father to Methuselah, Enoch continued to walk with the true God for 300 years. That's a long time that he walked with the true God. And he became father to sons and daughters, so all the days of Enoch amounted to 365 years. And Enoch kept walking with the true God. Then he was no more, for God took him. Now. I'm going to go back here. All right. We're going to go up. Because this article, hold on. Excuse me. Okay, little one was crying. So, anyways, we're going to go up here to the very beginning. All right. Down here in the second paragraph, it says Enoch was likely in grave danger. Picture him on the run, unable to put out of his mind the reaction of the people whom he had recently spoken a message from God. Yeah, but here it says that in verse 23 or 24, what is this? Okay, I got to go back down. All right, 24. Genesis 5, verse 24. Enoch kept walking with the true God. Then he was no more, for God took him. Now, this doesn't indicate at all that Enoch was in any sort of danger. In fact, Enoch kept walking with God for 300 years. That's it. That's a very long time. And yeah, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And why would Jehovah kill Enoch for being a righteous man? In fact, he had a message that he had pleased God well. He did. He received that message. If Enoch pleased the living God very well, why would he be killed for it? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. Because remember, before the flood of Noah's day, I believe Noah lived 500 years about the time when the flood came. And at that time, the world was just so wicked. It was terribly wicked. Jehovah didn't kill Moses, or not Moses, Noah. Did he? He didn't allow him to drown in the flood too. It just doesn't make sense to me. So my question is there any more information in the Bible that we can find about Enoch? And the answer that I found was yes and no. Yes and no. Well, why am I saying this? Well, I looked, if you go to Joshua chapter 10 and verse 13, it says, this is talking about the sun and the moon standing still in Joshua's day. So in verse 13 it says, so the sun stood still and the moon did not move until the nation could take vengeance on its enemies. And then it says, is it not written in the book of Jashar or Jasher? Interesting. The book of Jasher. Okay. There's one mention of it. Let's go back. 2 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 18 says, starting in verse 17, then David chanted this dirge or song over Saul and his son Jonathan. This was after Saul and Jonathan were struck down in battle. And at verse 18 it says, and said that the people of Judah should be taught the song called The Bow, which is written in the book of Jasher. Interesting. So, let's go to New World Translation here and see if we can find this book. Okay. All right. Let's scroll down. We're going to see if we can find this. Well, I don't see it. So, I went ahead and went online and found a book of Jashar or Jasher. Now, before I read this, this actually has quite a bit of information about Enoch. And I know some Jehovah's Witnesses may say, Tyler, that book of the Bible is not included. Well, that book is not included in the Bible. Well, I have two responses to that. The first one is the Bible itself was put together, I believe, by the Catholic Church some centuries ago, and it was put together based on what the clergy, I'm pretty sure it was the clergy, what they felt belonged in the Bible at the time. And I'm pretty sure that the book of Revelation almost did not make it into the Bible canon. So the Bible had a lot more books than what it does now. But and my second response would be, let's go back here. Let's go back. We're going to go look up Lamech. Okay. Go to Bible. Now, this Bible verse right here, the organization likes to use to describe how violent the world was in the days of Lamech, and here it is. Verse 23 of Genesis chapter 4. It says, Then Lamech composed these words for his wives Ada and Zillah. Hear my voice, you wives of Lamech. Give ear to my saying. A man I have killed for wounding me. Yes, a young man for striking me. If 7 times Cain is to be avenged, then Lamech 77 times. This verse right here, these two verses, the Watchtower likes to use as an example of how violent the world was and how poor of a choice Lamech used to defend himself from the violent people. But in the book of Jasher, it mentions this. So I'm going to go all the way up here. Okay. All right. This talks about Lamech. This is the chapter 2 of the book of, it says Yashar, which is Hebrew for Jashar. And chapter 2, verse 26, it says, And Lamech was old and advanced in years. Let me zoom in. A little bit. All right. Lamech was old and advanced in years, and his eyes were dim, that he could not see. And Tubal-Cain, his son, was leading him. And it was one day that Lamech went into the field, and Tubal-Cain, his son, was with him. And while they were walking in the field, Cain, the son of Adam, advanced towards them. For Lamech was very old and could not see much. And Tubal-Cain, his son, was very young. And Tubal-Cain told his father to draw his bow, and with the arrows he smited Cain, who is yet far off, and he slayed him, for he appeared to them to be an animal. And the arrows entered Cain's body, although he was distant from them, and he fell to the ground and died. And it says Yahuwah. I'm pretty sure this means Jehovah, And Yahuwah requited Cain's evil according to his wickedness, which he had done to his brother Abel, according to the word of Yahuwah which he had spoken. And it came to pass, when Cain had died, that Lamech and Tubal went to see the animal which they had slain. And they saw, behold, Cain their grandfather was fallen dead upon the earth. And Lamech was very much grieved at having done this. And in clapping his hands together, he struck his son and caused his death. And the wives of Lamech heard what Lamech had done, and they sought to kill him. And the wives of Lamech hated him from that day, because he slayed Cain and Tubal-Cain. And the wives of Lamech separated from him, and would not hearken to him in those days. And Lamech came to his wives, and he pressed them to listen to him about this matter. And he went and said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, Hear my voice, O wives of Lamech, attend to my words, for now I have imagined and said that I slayed a man with my wounds, and a child with my stripes, for their having done no violence. But surely know that I am old and gray-headed, and that my eyes are heavy through age, and I did this thing unknowingly. And the wives of Lamech listened to him in this matter, and they returned to him with the advice of their father Adam. And they bore no children to him from that time, knowing that Elohim's anger was increasing in those days against the sons of men to destroy them with the waters of the flood for their evil doings. So, if it was up to me, this passage right here makes a lot more sense than it explains a lot why Lamech would say this here in Genesis chapter 4 and verse 23. But anyways, yeah, that would be my second response. Genesis chapter 4 and verse 23, Lamech composed these words for his wives of Ada and Zillah, Hear my voice, you wives of Lamech, give ear to my saying, a man I have killed for wounding me, yes, a young man for striking me. If 7 times Cain is to be avenged, then Lamech 77 times. Yes, Lamech said this because he killed Cain. He did. He did. And whoever killed Cain was 7 times cursed as Cain was. So, yeah, that doesn't. The Watchtower's explanation of why this was written doesn't make any sort of sense. The book of Jashar explains it very well. So, let's go back to the book of Jashar and see what it has to say about Enoch. Because remember, the Watchtower said that, Jehovah killed Enoch because the earth was just so violent. And yeah. All right. All right. So this is talking about Enoch. We're going to start in verse 10. This is chapter 3. And it says, and they assembled in all 130 kings and princes, and they made Enoch king over them, and they were all under his power and command. So Enoch was made king. That's interesting. And Enoch taught them wisdom, knowledge, and the ways of Yahuwah. And he made peace among them. And peace was throughout the earth during the life of Enoch. And Enoch reigned over the sons of men 243 years. And he did justice and righteousness with all his people. And he led them in the ways of Yahuwah. And these are the generations of Enoch. Okay. We're going to skip down. I'm going to scroll down here. All right, so Enoch was a king, and he would when he ruled, there was peace on the earth, which would make sense. Okay. I'm looking for this. Go up. All right, in verse 26, and he taught them wisdom and knowledge, and gave them instruction, and he reproved them, and he placed before them statutes and judgments to do upon the earth, and he made peace among them, and he taught them everlasting life, and dwelt with them some time, teaching them all these things. This is talking about Enoch and the people. And at that time the sons of men were with Enoch, and Enoch was speaking to them. And they lifted up their eyes, and the likeness of a great horse descended from heaven, and the horse paced in the air. That's kind of cool. Let's go down a little more. And they told Enoch what they had seen, and Enoch said to them, On my account, does this horse descend upon the earth? The time is come when I must go from you, and shall no more be seen by you. And the horse descended at that time, and stood before Enoch. And all the sons of men that were with Enoch saw him. And Enoch then again ordered a voice to be proclaimed, saying, Where is the man who delights to know the way of Yahuwah his Elohim, or Jehovah's God? Let him come this day to Enoch before he is taken from us. And all the sons of men assembled and came to Enoch that day, and all the kings of the earth went to with their princes and counselors remained with him that day. And Enoch then taught the sons of men wisdom and knowledge, and gave them divine instruction. And he bade them to serve Yahuwah, or Jehovah, and walk in his ways all the days of their lives. And he continued to make peace among them. And it was after this that he rose up and rode upon the horse. And he went forth, and all the sons of men went after him, about 800,000 men. And they went with him 1 day's journey. And the second day he said to them, Return to your tents. Why will you go? Perhaps you may die. And some of them went from him, and those that remained went with him 6 days' journey. And Enoch said to them every day, Return to your tents, lest you may die. But they were not willing to return, and they went with him. And on the sixth day some of the men remained and clung to him, and they said to him, We will go with you to the place where you go, as Yahuwah lives. Death only shall separate us. And they urged so much to go with him that he ceased speaking to them. And they went after him and would not return. And when the kings returned, they caused a census to be taken, in order to know the number of remaining men that went with Enoch. And it was upon the seventh day Enoch ascended into heaven, and a whirlwind with horses and chariots of fire. That's important. A whirlwind with horses and chariots of fire? Enoch ascended into heaven? Huh. Okay. Let's see here. Verse 37. And on the eighth day, all the kings that had been with Enoch sent to bring back the number of men that were with Enoch in the place which he had ascended into heaven. And all those kings went to the place where they found the earth there filled with snow, and upon the snow were large stones of snow. And one said to the other, Come, let us break through the snow, and see, perhaps the men that remained with Enoch are dead, and now are under the stones of snow. And they searched, but could not find him, for he had ascended into heaven. All right, we're going to go down a little more. All right, chapter 4. And all the days of Enoch lived upon earth were 365 years. And when Enoch had ascended to heaven, all the kings of earth rose and took Methuselah, his son, and anointed him. And they caused him to reign over the place of his father. Interesting. So, according to this entire passage here, Enoch was a king. He taught the people righteousness. He kept peace. He ruled for about 240 years. He kept peace with the people. And he was, after 7 days of riding upon this horse, I believe, he was taken up to heaven in a whirlwind and chariots of fire. Now my question is, has this happened before in the Bible? Has it? Well, let's take a look here. Let's take a good look. We're going to look up Elijah. All right? Because remember, Elijah was also, we're going to go back to this Bible verse here. Elijah was also among the one that was appeared to Jesus and was speaking to him. It was Elijah and supposedly Moses, which Moses couldn't have been it. So let's see what happened to Elijah. All right. Elijah. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Let's look up chariots of fire. Might be able to find it. Well, let's go scroll down a little bit. Let's do whirlwind. I swear Watchtower tries to hide this information. Okay. Okay. I had it earlier. Okay. All right, we're going to go to 2 Kings. We're going to go down to... going to go down. All right. This is Elijah, all right? The one who appeared also before Jesus. In verse 9 of chapter 2 in 2 Kings, it says, as soon as they had gone across, Elijah said to Elisha, ask what you want me to do for you before I am taken from you. So Elisha said, please, may I receive a double portion of your spirit? He said, you have asked a difficult thing. If you see me when I am taken from you, it will happen for you that day, that way. But if you do not, it will not happen. All right. Verse 11. As they were walking along, speaking, as they were walking along, speaking as they walked, suddenly a fiery chariot and fiery horses made a separation between the two of them, and Elijah ascended into the heavens in a windstorm. While Elisha was watching, he was crying out, my father, the chariot of Israel and his horsemen. When he could no longer see him, he took hold of his own garments, and ripped them into two pieces. After that, he picked up the official garment of Elijah that had fallen off of him and went back and stood by the bank of the Jordan. So it says here that Elijah was taken, had ascended into the heavens in a windstorm and a fiery chariot with fiery horses. So let's go back to the book of Jashar. What happened to Enoch? It says here at verse 36, chapter 3, and it was upon the seventh day that Enoch ascended into heaven in a whirlwind with horses and chariots of fire. That is very, very, very interesting. So, if I were to say whether I believe that Moses and Elijah were the ones who appeared to Jesus and conversed with him, no, I don't believe that. I believe it was Enoch and Elijah. Because remember, the book of Jashar was referenced in our very own Bible twice. And not only does the book of Jashar say that Enoch rose to heaven with in a whirlwind, along with horses and chariots of fire, the same thing happened to Elijah. And also Moses was told that he would not cross into the promised land. So Moses, this right here, Moses appearing to Jesus in the promised land, it would make God a liar. But God doesn't lie. He doesn't. So this wasn't Moses. At least I don't think it was. I believe it was Enoch. But, yeah, I know that was a very, very lengthy sort of thing, but sort of a viewpoint on this. But really, this video is up for debate completely because I don't know whether this is true, but based on the evidence that I have found, it was Enoch and Elijah that appeared to Jesus. That would have to make sense. That's the only thing that makes sense. And as we've read in the book of Yashar or Jashar, that it says that Enoch was a king. He taught the people in righteousness. The Bible says that he walked with God for 300 years. 300 years. Why did God all of a sudden decide to kill Enoch? I don't believe that God ever killed Enoch. I don't believe that. I don't believe Enoch is dead. Neither is Elijah. It's just, I mean, if we go back here, it says transferred as not to see death. Hebrews 11 verse 5. All right. By faith, Enoch was transferred so as not to see death, but he was nowhere to be found because God had transferred him. But for before he was transferred, he received the witness that he had pleased God well. If Enoch was transferred not to see death, Enoch was not dead. He isn't dead. He was. God didn't kill him. He did not see death. Why does the Watchtower say that he died? Like it contradicts itself. But anyways, let's reread verse 3 of chapter 20 or chapter 17 in Matthew. And look, there appeared to them Moses and Elijah conversing with him. Now let's read this correctly. And look, there appeared to them Enoch and Elijah conversing with him. That makes a lot more sense. That makes so much more sense. But anyways, that's all I really wanted to talk about, for now at least. Yeah, this video is made for educational purposes. It's made out of my love for everybody, and I really want to know what your guys' thoughts on this. I mean, this is a controversial subject, I feel like, but really, let me know your thoughts, because it just amazes me, like how many things we can learn from the Bible itself. Even some of the books that are actually not in there have a lot of great information that like for instance, Lamech and his song that he made for his wives. When you read it from the Bible, it doesn't really make too much sense. But what Jashar explains that Lamech killed Cain, and that would make a lot more sense. And he killed his own son because his son tricked him. And it just amazes me. This passage right here amazed me to a great degree. But yeah, this is part 3 to A Jehovah's Witness Discovers New Light, and I may very well make a finale, because I actually am going to make a final part to this, because the last part I really would like to discuss something with the viewers. It's a very important topic. But anyways, with all that, the Coleman family send their love, and yeah, have a good one.